Wilfred Almeida, who is an LFX 23 at CNCF Harbor. In this talk, Wilfred shares his experiences of production mess-ups, and I'm sure you'll enjoy this talk. So, this is the last talk. Let's give an even huge round of applause for him. Thank you, guys.
Okay, so hi folks, and I'm glad you are still here. So I'm Wilfred, and I'll be sharing my experiences of messing up productions or how to not mess up productions. So I'm Wilfred, and I am LFX 23 mentee at CNCF Harbor, and let's get started. So just a quick bit of disclaimer that I'll be discussing some Linux commands that from my experiences are known to break operating systems. So it is I would advise you not to execute these commands, and if you do, then you'll be responsible for that. So before getting started, let us assume a scenario or typical development scenario. There is an application to be deployed which needs to be deployed. Then there is a production server and there is an overexcited intern. So let's discuss the first command. So my incident with this command. I had to deploy a static site and an ASP.NET backend onto a cyber panel powered by CentOS. So I did all of the configuring. I just needed to put the files in the root/var/www directory for the static hosting. I did that, but I was getting some permission error. So as you might know, to give the permissions to files, so the user www-data needs to be given permission to the folder. I had not done that, and I was getting again and again permission error. And the story with that project was, the project was delayed for 3 months, and the clients who hired me had the project owners chewing them for the fast deployment. So the backend was deployed, the application was somewhat working, only the website's front end needed to be put in the www folder. So they set up a business meeting, they were en route for the business meeting, and my last bit of job was to just settle the permissions. So what did I do? I ran the command with the thought process of everyone will have access to everything, so those who need the access will use it, those who don't need the access won't use it. So no gain, no pain. So, and remember, they are en route to the business meeting. The owners are waiting in the meeting room. These people are on their bike going there. I ran the command and the server crashed. And they were en route. They get a call that the site is not working, the APIs are not working, the guy who was testing it. So they put their bike on the roadside, they took out the laptop, they are checking it, it is not working. I get a call, and even I didn't realize what I had done wrong. Because my thought process was that everyone will have access to everything. Those who want the access will use it. Those who don't want the access won't use it. So it was quite a novice perspective. So the aftermath of this was that permissions are heavily relied upon in the Linux operating system. So if you're trying to mess with the permissions, it is better that you first understand what the consequences of the permission, the command that you are running will be. And the OS is designed in a way that it relies heavily on permission. So whatever process ID and the low level kernel stuff is there, it is all controlled by the permissions of it. So anything goes wrong there, the server will mess up, and it was a production server. So the owners actually chewed up the clients, and because so the project was delayed by 3 months, I added 1 night delay. So in this case, the crash actually turned out to be good. So just can you imagine that a production server crash is actually beneficial? Any scenario you can imagine? So what happened was, initially someone had installed unknown useless things and resource usage was unnecessarily high. So after the production was crashed, I deployed it again in 1 night from scratch. Only the essential components were there on the server. So actually the resource usage was minimized. So ultimately after the reinstall, usage and cost was less. So since the cost was less, the client was happy, the owners were happy, because ultimately they were the ones paying for it, and they were not incurring much cost. So in this particular case, the crash turned out to be good, but there are rare scenarios that a production crash will actually turn out good. Moving on. In case you Google the command and you come across this question on Ask Ubuntu, so I'm the one who asked the question from an alternate ID because I was scared that they might find from my original ID. So, and again in the answers they said the same thing, that it is not advised to run such experimental commands onto the production server. So Yeah, so this is what actually happened. So the clients were telling the owners that, hey, the new developer actually saved you cost. It's just a one night delay for the meeting. But in reality, I had actually crashed the server and set it back up. So what I had done was I had documented every command that I was running. So I just made a text file, and every command that I was running, I was just copy pasting the command. If the command worked, I would keep it there. If it didn't work, I would just remove it. So ultimately, when the server had crashed, I had a text file. I just needed to change the extension to .sh. I had a bash script ready to get everything up and running from scratch. So this is one bit of advice that I would give, that if you are running experimental commands, try to keep documentation of the steps that you are doing, so that in case something goes wrong, you have an idea of how to trace back. So, okay, so moving on, this is second instance of select star. So I was working as an intern at a startup, and I was working on a B2B e-commerce platform. So here so the products data was stored into three tables in a MySQL database. So I ran 3 select star statements, and all of the data was in my Node.js code. I would just filter whatever I was needing, and I would send the data back to the client. Project manager was a non-tech person, so the API was working, the front-end developer integrated it, project manager was happy. So I made a PR to the main repo, and a senior developer was responsible to review it. And we had a daily stand-up calls every day, 9:30 a.m. So the next day when the meeting started, the project manager was there, the boss got the update. The senior developer is like, okay, the code this guy has written is not acceptable. So question is why? I asked why, boss asked why. So he said that this guy is using 3 select star statements into the code. So the boss said, okay, that is not acceptable. So me being the stubborn intern, I countered that why? Because select star exists, so I can use it. What's the problem in that? So then they had to keep the daily scrum aside and had to explain me why select star is bad. So here is why select star is slow. So the first thing is index usage. So in SQL databases, the concept of indexes is heavily used to increase the response time of the queries. So when a select star is done, everything in the databases is just picked and returned. So there is no index usage. So trying to scan everything from the database and process all of the data is time consuming. Then there is deserialization cost. Data is stored as bytes. So this bytes needs to be converted into, let's say, understandable format like JSON. So all of this processing power is needed. So that is deserialization cost. The network cost. If database is somewhere offsite and the backend application is running somewhere, then the data needs to be transmitted. Such heavy data, if you are dealing in terms of millions of rows, then there is network cost to be considered. And then again, slow client. If the client is under load and is not able to perform such heavy computations, then again there will be a response time that would be increased unnecessarily. So yeah, then this is leaked public secrets. So I was working on a project. I had a Docker environment file. It had all of my secrets to be provided to a Kubernetes deployment, and the file it was stored in a Git repo, and I just put it. I just published the whole Git repo, and under 2 minutes, I am bombarded with emails from Git Guardian, OpenAI, MongoDB that, hey dude, you leaked your secrets, and we have rotated your keys, so you better make the repo private. So I panicked, and I just made the repo private again. So yeah, so here is my bit on how to not leak your secrets. So yeah, environment variables and config files. So I had a config file, I made it public, but you don't make it public. Keep your config file safe. And environment variables, in my opinion, are by far the best options to keep your secrets safe. Just put it in a safe environment. Then there are secret management systems, some open source ones, some proprietary ones. You can just use some secret management services to securely host your secrets. Then regular security audits. So doing proper audits of your deployment systems is a good practice, so that if there are some unknown errors that are lying into your systems, you can just quickly uncover them. And then there is the concept of least privilege. So whatever access you are provisioning, try to give it on the least privilege basis, so that even if something goes wrong, a particular bit of information is leaked, it should have the least privilege, so that you can minimize your attack surface. And then this is a rather recent one that I was trying to deploy a Node.js application, and to install Node modules, the Node modules go in the /usr directory. So I was getting permission error for the directory, so I tried changing a bit of permissions. The permissions were not allowed, so I just ran this command, and then when I went to do sudo again, it was saying that it was something like sudo, the UID or set UID of sudo should be set to root or something. So basically I had a broken sudo. On my server, sudo was not running. So I did this at two places. I had to reinstall the OS once because sudo, the root account was not configured. So whatever everything was there, I had to back it up, and I had to do a plain reinstall of the operating system to get the working system back again. And in the second case, I had a root account set up, so I just SSH via the root account, took the ownership of the USR folder, and my sudo was, there were a bit of problems after that, but yeah, sudo was back again working. So these are some general good mechanisms that if you are trying to manage your servers, a good practices into production. So identity management. So this is the concept of every entity that is there has a certain strict identity, and there is an identity management system that provides fine-grained control. So IAM, in my opinion, is the best way to provide fine-grained controls. You can just have a dashboard, and from there you can set up rules and policies for the IAM clients, and based on that provide least privilege access. Now this is role-based access control. So in your deployment systems, you can create particular roles, like there is a role of DBA, database admins. You can create an intern role as well, and let the intern play with the production server. And then there is the attribute based access control. So attribute based, you can define certain attributes, and if these attributes are met, only then the changes would be allowed. An example would be that the user is a trusted user, it is a sudo user. Then you might have some network constraints that the command is coming from, or the connection is from a trusted IP source. Certain attributes you can define on your systems, which can help you provide some more control. And then there is multi-factor authentication. If there are some breaking changes, it is better to have multi-factor authentication set up, and the multi-factor authority might be not a single person. Let's say if the intern is running some commands, then the senior developer should approve the sudo commands that are being executed. So some sort of multi-factor authentication control, if that is there, there are multiple concerning parties involved, then you can make sure that the systems don't go haywire. So, and yeah, now the most important question is, should the intern be allowed access to production? So tweet out your thoughts and make sure to tag me. So if you just scan this QR, then your Twitter will launch, and you can just tweet out whatever your thoughts are on whether or not the intern should be allowed access to the production. So yeah, I would like to thank KCD Mumbai for giving me this opportunity to speak here. And this is more about me. So yeah, I'm looking for full-time roles. So if you are interested in crashing your production, be sure to check me out.
So thanks, Wilfred, for that talk. And I hope you enjoyed the last talk of the evening. But before you go, I want to invite Rohit onto the stage to present Wilfred with the memento.